For 17 years, the News First team has worked tirelessly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to bring you unbiased news from here at home and every corner of the world.
And today, as News First begins its 18th year, we look forward to your continued viewership and support to forge further ahead. And I'm Sonali Vanigabadage. We start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
3 bills including the Divinaguma bill tabled in Parliament. Impeachment motion against the Chief Justice included in the parliamentary agenda. Court calls for a report on the sections removed from the skull of parliamentarian Duminda Silva. The 4 suspects arrested in connection with the quadruple murder in Poddala released. And News First marks 17 years.
The Supreme Court determined today that the Divinaguma bill should be approved by the people at a referendum. However, the decision also states that a special majority is sufficient to pass the bill if it is in accordance with the amendments proposed by the Supreme Court. Incidentally, what is meant by a special majority in this case is a 2/3 majority in Parliament.
As one of the provincial councils has not been established and thereby its views cannot be obtained, this bill can only be passed through a special majority in Parliament. As Section 5C of this bill violates Article 12 Part 1 of the Constitution, it must be passed through a special majority. Sections 7 and 42 of the bill are not in accordance with Articles 52 Part 2 and 51 Part 1 of the Constitution. It must be passed through a special majority. As Section 8 Part 2 of this bill is in violation of Article 3 of the Constitution, it must be passed by the people through a people's referendum. Nevertheless, if the regional heads of the department are to be appointed by the Cabinet, since this is not in violation Article 3 of the Constitution, the people's referendum is not required for it to pass. Sections 11 and 18 of the bill are in violation of Article 12 of the Constitution and therefore must be passed with a special majority.
The Speaker also informed the House of other decisions arrived at by the Supreme Court with regard to the Divinaguma bill.
Section 14 of the bill is in violation of Article 12 Part 1 of the Constitution. Nevertheless, if the Director General under Section 17H of the bill with regard to powers of supervision, regulation and administration of community-based organizations of the department consults with local Divinaguma organizations in carrying out these affairs, this violation can be rectified. As Section 17K of the bill is in violation of Article 12 Part 1 of the Constitution, under Article 84 Part 2 of the Constitution, it must be passed by a special majority. As Section 19 of the bill is in violation of Article 12 of the Constitution, it must be passed with a special majority under Article 84 Part 2 of the Constitution. As Sections 25 Part 4 and 29 Part 4 of the bill are in violation of Article 12 Part 1 of the Constitution, it must be passed with a special majority. Part 35(1) BC and D of Section 5D of the bill is in violation of Article 3 of the Constitution. Nevertheless, if the monies and assets mentioned in Part 35(1) B, C and D of the bill are directed to a joint fund and are used for the Divinaguma fund with the permission of Parliament, then this violation can be rectified.
The Speaker of the House also informed the House of the decision arrived at by the Supreme Court with regard to the petition which was filed pertaining to the Appropriation Bill for 2013. The Supreme Court has decided that since a section of the bill is in violation of the Constitution, it too must be passed with a special majority.
As Section 2(1)(b) of this bill is in violation of Article 148 of the Constitution, the Supreme Court has decided that it violates the Constitution. Nevertheless, the Court has decided that if the section is amended to state that prior to the obtaining of loans, the particulars of these loans must be approved in Parliament, then this irregularity can be corrected. As Section 7(b) of the bill is in violation of Article 148 of the Constitution, it is in violation of the Constitution. The Court has decided that if the section is amended to state, quote, only with the approval of Parliament, unquote, then this section can be corrected.
පනත් කෙටුම්පතේ 7A වගන්තිය ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාවේ 148 වෙනි ව්‍යවස්ථාවට පටහැනි බැවින්.
Meanwhile, Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa also informed the House on the Supreme Court's decision with regard to the Criminal Procedure Code Special Provisions Bill. The Court's decision notes that since Section 8 of the bill is in violation of Article 13(2) of the Constitution, it too must be passed with a special majority. Nevertheless, the Supreme Court has also decided that if the additional provision proposed by the Court is attached at the end of Section 8 of the bill and Section 2 of the bill is amended, then this violation can be rectified.
A new treatment unit at the Tangol Base Hospital was declared open by President Mahinda Rajapaksa this morning. The Tangol Base Hospital was built at a cost of 180 million rupees under the Sewer Sevana program of the Mahinda Chintana. The event was organized concurrent to the 45th commemoration of D.A. Rajapaksa, and the Sisura Scholarship Program was also held under the auspices of the President.
The D.A. Rajapaksa Commemoration Committee organizes the Sisura Scholarship Program each year in line with the annual commemoration. Scholarships were presented to university and school students this year as well. A group of ministers also participated in the event.
කනිෂ්ඨ විද්‍යාලය The impeachment motion against Chief Justice Dr. Shirani Bandaranaike has been included in the Parliament agenda. A total of 14 charges have been included in this motion, and we will take a detailed look at the 14 charges later on in the news. Speaking at a media briefing today, UNP General Secretary MP Tisatanaike said that the Parliamentary Select Committee, which is to be appointed to preside over the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice, should possess judicial powers.
තේරීම් කාර්යක සභාවට මේක ගියාම තේරීම් කාර්යක සභාවේ බහුතර
Some people harbour a deep suspicion that once this goes into a Parliament Select Committee, the government will use its majority to obtain a verdict that they want. I wish to state at this time that our responsibility is to ensure that they do not act as they wish in the Select Committee and write the verdict that they want. We have previous examples of this. There have been instances of impeachment motions being brought against Chief Justices, and we can draw from the experience of the impeachment motion against Mr. Neville Samarakon.
අගවිනිසුරු මේට ඉස්සරලා හිටපු අගවිනිසුරුවරුන්ට විරුද්ධව ඉදිරිපත් වෙච්ච දෝෂාභියෝග තිබුණා නෙවිල් සමරකෝන් මහත්මයාට විරුද්ධ.
The Archbishop's Current Affairs Committee points out that the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice should not divert the government's attention from more pressing issues such as implementing a political solution to the ethnic issue and resolving the grievances of the Tamil people. A communique bearing the signature of Committee Chairman Reverend Cyril Garmini Fernando states that the Select Committee process will be open to at least selected members of the public in order to avoid charges that the committee acted in an ad hoc manner.
The communique states that the committee hopes that the chairman of the Select Committee will be a lawyer and that the government and the opposition will both be equally represented in the committee, since the impeachment motion was signed by parliamentarians of constituent parties of the government. The communique notes that although a courtroom is open to the public in the regular judicial process, the Parliament Select Committee sessions would only be open to a camera. The communique adds that the process of the impeachment motion should ensure natural justice to the Chief Justice. This includes the right to plead her case, to obtain assistance of a lawyer to represent her, to cross-examine those who testify against her, and to call witnesses to testify on her behalf. Meanwhile, issuing a communique, the National Christian Council has requested the government to ensure that the impeachment motion against the Chief Justice is conducted with utmost transparency and fair play, where justice alone will triumph. The Council has reiterated that the independence of the judiciary is sacrosanct for a vibrant, participatory democratic process, which alone will ensure the credibility of the legislature and the executive of the country.
Welcome back to the news. The 4 suspects who were arrested in connection with the murder of 4 persons in Poddalagol were released today.
The 4 suspects were arrested in connection with the murder of 4 persons whose bound and gagged bodies were found close to the Mahasohon culvert in Poddala. The suspects were produced before the Galle Magistrate and District Judge Mahinda Pinidiya. The magistrate decided to release the suspects based on the report submitted by the Poddala police. The B report states that these 4 individuals have no connection to the murder of 4 persons. From the defense, I made a request, that is, the father, uncle, his brother. 3 murders have taken place. No one connected to the murders have been arrested. Therefore, an injustice has taken place.
මේ වනතෙක් ඉන් එක්කෙනෙක්වත් ඒ සම්බන්ධව අත්අඩංගුවට අරන් නැහැ. ඒ නිසා විත්තිකරුවන්ට විශාල අසාධාරණයක් කියලා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, the final rites for 3 of the victims were performed in Galle today.
The final rites were performed at the Milidua Public Cemetery in Galle. One of the victims, Malit Madhushankar, was 18 years old at the time of his demise. His family says that he was preparing to travel abroad. The final rites were also performed today for another victim, J.M. Janaka, who was a vegetable trader by profession. The final rites were also performed today for Janaka Pushpakumara from Badungodawatte in Ambalanwatte, Galle. A sailor in the Navy, Pushpakumara was 24 years old. The funeral of the 4th victim, W. Amlanishanta, will take place tomorrow. His family says that his wife, who is abroad, will return to the island tomorrow. The bodies of the 4 victims were discovered on the morning of the 4th of this month, with their limbs bound and heads covered, near the Mahason culvert in Poddala, Galle.
Colombo Additional Magistrate Prasanna D. Alves ordered the director of the Sri Jayawardhanapura Hospital to submit a report on the sections of the skull that were removed during a surgery on MP Duminda Silva. This was based on a request made by Attorney at Law Anuja Premaratna, who is representing one of the 4 suspects in the murder of the late Bharata Lakshman Premachandra.
The suspects were once again produced before the Colombo Additional Magistrate this morning. Appearing on behalf of the relatives of the late Bharata Lakshman Premachandra, Attorney at Law Uppur Kamara Peruma said that although the Criminal Investigations Department says that they have sought the advice of the Attorney General, they have not received any advice as yet. He added that the case has been continuously postponed, with the CID stating it was awaiting advice from the Attorney General, but no advice has been forthcoming. After I got onto the stage in Hinguragoda Polonnaruwa, many said that I sold my father. I would like to clearly state that no matter what, my father was not treated fairly when he was in this party. His post of organizer was taken off. After that, the post of organizer was given to different people. Now you can see what has happened in Kolonnawa. Very soon I might make a very unexpected decision. I know that everyone in Kolonnawa will be with me when I make that decision. I will fight. I don't care for my life. I have nothing to lose.
මොකක් හරි පියවරක් ගනි ඒ පියවරට මම දන්නවා කොළොන්නාවේ ජනතාව සියලු දෙනාම මාත් එක්ක එක්කහුවේ සඳහා සටන් කරනවා මගේ ජීවිතේ ගියත් කමක් නැහැ මට බව නැති වෙන දෙයක් නැහැ